few months ago, I made a video talking about GCN's Everything Wrong with The Walking Dead Season 1 Episode 2, and I wasn't sure whether I'd continue that or not, but that was before GCN had actually finished the final season, Everything Wrong with It anyway. So now that they finished that, I feel like now's as good a time as any to finish my take on what they do, if you know what I mean. So I do basically everything wrong with The Walking Dead game. So I just nitpick what they say, because they point out a lot of stupid things that shouldn't. They have things called sins, where they sin the game for how bad it is, you know, and the amount of sins you get is how bad it is. It's really kind of vague, but they kind of criticize the game for reasons that they shouldn't. So I'll be covering Season 1 Episode 2 this video. Now there won't be another 5-month gap between this one and Episode 3. I just wasn't sure whether I'd finish the series or not, but I think I definitely will now. Before we start, I'm going to preface by saying that there are a lot of kind of stupid sins, and every time a stupid sin plays out, I'm not even going to point it out, I'm just going to play like a bruh sound effect or something. There's a lot of those in this video, and you'll understand what I mean when you see one. But when there isn't a sin that's sin-worthy, I'll pause the video and then explain why it's not. And yeah, I'm going to get into this episode.
Yeah, except then I'd probably be food by now.
Haha, not so subtle foreshadowing.
He's a walking pile driver. I know I wouldn't want to be stuck in a room with him.
Now that kind of is subtle foreshadowing.
I don't understand the reason as to why foreshadowing is a sin, to this guy anyway. I find that foreshadowing can be quite... It's strange, so foreshadowing, you don't notice it until the said foreshadowed event happens. So like when you see Marcus being eaten, or when you're trapped in a room with Larry and he dies and he can turn, it's kind of a funny callback more than anything.
He's just an old racist asshole.
Playing the race card.
Ben, shut up! My dad was Special Forces, I know what I'm doing!
The "my parents are insert here, therefore I know what I'm doing" argument.
Hurry, please, hurry!
Now that delivery doesn't sound like a guy who's in pain.
Lee, this trap's been altered. There's no release latch.
Well, that's pretty stupid. Who makes a bear trap without a release latch?
Oh, no.
Oh, I know. Telltale! Because I have to add this scene for the sake of tension and because the plot demands it.
Okay, so we find out later in the episode the reason why there were bear traps out in the forest with no release latch, and that's because the St. John brothers were using the traps to capture humans to then trap, kill, and then pick off as meat and then trade it for gasoline to run their generators that power their electric fence. Now the reason they gave to the player was that they were catching animals in those traps and they had no release latch on them because they didn't want people stealing their catch. So they could, you know, but that's just a complete BS excuse, especially considering we find out that they're cannibals later on in the episode. So a reason is given as to why there is no release latch, and to say that the reason why there is no release latch is simply lazy writing on Telltale's part is just bizarre, really. It's just doesn't make much sense.
You know, this is some pretty crappy fortification. The barrier's too short, and it can be easily climbed because the slopes are on the other side.
I mean, yeah, the barriers are a bit laid out a bit weird, but I think the barbed wire above the barrier would probably stop people climbing over it, but it definitely would be better if it was the other way around, so give it half a sin for that. I'm probably being too lenient if I... half a sin.
Bubble jacket.
Bruh.
This man has no leg.
Well, he's got half a leg.
Bruh.
That's a pretty ineffective way of using an axe. Subtitles that match the color of a character's clothes.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Carly had pink or purple subtitles in the previous episode. I can't actually remember.
Oh, look at that. My shadows are going nuts.
You've been good to me and my family. You saved Duck from those monsters, and you stood up to Larry at the drugstore. I won't forget that.
Yeah, until the script says otherwise. Probably not a wise move to put your hand so close to a walker's mouth, Lee.
Why'd you bring him here in the first place, asshole?
Dad.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe because the plot required it. There was no option to just shoot him and leave him behind.
Well, I mean, you could have left the teacher in the bear trap to die, but at the same time, that would have meant accidentally shooting Travis in the stomach and taking him back instead, and then he dies and plays the same role, basically. So I can see where it's coming from, but technically you could have left him, so half a sin.
It's not the bite that does it. You come back no matter how you die. If you don't destroy the brain, that's just what happens. It's gonna happen to all of us.
Crucial plot details delivered by an inept character that everyone will end up hating later on.
I don't think the fact that Ben was the one to deliver that line was a sin, considering no one else in the group would have any reason to believe otherwise. Ben knew that people didn't turn from the bite and just die and turn from dying because of what a girl committing suicide in his school turned later on. So it makes sense for him to be the one to deliver that line because nobody else in the group would have thought otherwise.
But you'd really be helping out a fellow survivor if you could part with some extra gas before we leave.
So I'm guessing you guys didn't bother to check the abandoned cars for gas?
Well, I mean, they probably did, but even if they didn't, they wouldn't have been able to because approaching the car, Carly would have pointed a loaded gun at them and told them to back off. Or if you had saved Doug, then his little bell traps would have gone off and alerted the whole group to them being there. So they probably wouldn't have been able to search the abandoned cars anyway.
Danny and I got you covered if something happens.
How are you going to help defend us? You have no weapons!
Yeah, I don't know though, because at the end of the episode he did have a revolver in his back pocket, so I mean he might have still had that on him, but it's not confirmed or denied whether he does have it on him or not. So, half a sin.
Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you!
Jesus.
What a waste of ammo.
I thought I saw y'all with company coming down the drive.
This woman's accent.
Just a bit racist.
How about this? Y'all go get your veterinary friend and I'll prepare some dinner. A big feast for all you hungry souls.
So we find out later that the St. John's had Mark's legs hacked off to be served for dinner. But if Mark and Lee didn't check the perimeter of the fence, then what was she going to cook them for dinner? I mean, were they counting on the bandits attacking Lee and Mark so that one of them could be injured, thus making them easy pickings? Seems a little confusing to me.
In some cut content that didn't make it to the full game, they had it where Mark got shot with an arrow, but he got shot through the head, so he just died straight away. And the guy who was fed to the group was actually the guy from the forest who got trapped in a bear trap. Now I don't know why they cut that out. That would have been a pretty interesting scenario. But even still, had Mark not been attacked and not been injured, then they probably would have just like called a member of the group to help Brenda in that house, and then just kind of killed them, or at the very least incapacitated them to then take off their legs and use them as meat. It just happened that Mark's injury was convenient for them and their kind of agenda.
Take this.
Why give Carly the rifle? She already has a handgun.
You give Kylie the handgun because Ben's fucking useless at everything, and he should know better because he's played through the whole season already.
This right here should have given you a clue that this dairy is a terrible place. It hasn't won an award since Mortal Kombat 2 was released.
Well, I think the game was set in 2003 because the game is set in the same universe as the comics and the show, and the comics were written in 2003. So I think it might have even been confirmed. I'm not 100% sure whether the game was set in 2003 as well. If that's the case, then that makes the lack of awards between 1993 and 2003 a lot more believable and a lot more kind of, acceptable. But the game was released in 2012. If that was set in 2012, which I don't think it was, if the game was made in 2012, if the game was set in 2012, then that would be more of a justified sin. But from what I believe, from what I know, the game was set in 2003 or that time around about. So I reckon I'll give it half a sin because of the ambiguity of the whole situation.
Glitch! You know, I once was a flesh-eating zombie, but then I took an arrow to the neck.
Bruh.
Mark isn't wearing the same clothes as he did in the previews when he got shot.
Well, considering the previews were released at the same time as the previous episode, which that episode would have been released a few months before the episode that was previewed was released, that time kind of span probably would have, in that time span, some stuff probably would have changed. For example, Lee's clothes, they were meant to stay the same in episode 2, 3, 4, and probably 5 as well, but they changed back to his original clothes in episode 1 for whatever reason. So things change in the making of the game over the course of months. So I don't think the fact that his clothes change is that big of a deal. I don't know if I'm the only one.
Did you really think you could fuck with us? Show yourself!
These bandits suck at strategy.
I don't think bandits are exactly the SWAT team or the army. They probably aren't the best when it comes to strategy, considering they're just a bunch of rogue survivors out to kill as many people and take all their shit.
Oh man, look at all this glitchy movement.
Shit. It's one of the dead we pushed down earlier.
Actually it isn't, Lee.
Another one? How many of those things did we push down?
And this one isn't either. Speaking of which, this game has a sloppy tendency of popping up walkers out of nowhere. These two were clearly not here earlier.
Get closer!
Leader tells the bandits to move in closer, but they never do. Lee and Mark leave this gate wide open.
Considering how easy it was for Lee and Mark to open that gate, I don't think closing it again would have made a big difference in stopping the bandits. And even if they did try to close the gate, they probably would have been shot in doing so.
And the bandits never attacked the dairy again.
Oh my god, what happened?
He got shot with an arrow.
Bruh. I should just pull it out.
That's not what your girlfriend said.
Bruh.
They don't close this gate either. Reused chair prop. It's nice to get a little backstory on Daryl's crossbow.
Bruh.
Jolene gets caught monologuing.
She had a crossbow pointed at my forehead.
Actually, she was aiming at yo balls.
Bruh.
Then screw it up for everybody then, why don't you?
This conversation was silent before the camera panned over.
What exactly happened at the camp?
Lee just told you what happened at the camp.
We found a woman in the woods. She was talking all crazy and had a crossbow. So Danny killed her.
We should just get our dinner and leave.
Come on now. We don't want to be rude.
But you just said that we were overstaying our welcome.
We are guests here, and we don't need to be overstaying our welcome more than we already are.
I don't think taking a family up on their offer to stay the night and have food at their house is necessarily overstaying their welcome. I think Lily just wanted to leave because of the whole situation with the bandits.
We go from daytime to nighttime in a matter of seconds.
Daddy said it's called a salt lick.
Yeah, but don't lick it. It's gross.
Did you lick it?
I don't know.
Clementine's cuteness automatically deducts 20 sins from this game.
It smells funny in here.
Like shit, right, Lee?
Hey, Lee, you know how to pick a lock, right? Well, you're, urban?
Racial prejudice.
I don't think writing a character to be a certain way is a sin in the game itself. When I think of sins for a game, I think about like glitches that shouldn't be there or like plot holes. But Kenny being a slightly racist man isn't a sin on the game itself. It's a part of the character that makes the character who he is.
Jesus, man, I'm from Florida. Crazy shit just comes out of my mouth sometimes.
Yeah, and so do bullets when you see someone wearing a hoodie.
Bruh.
I know it's for the sake of distracting Andy, but is disabling a generator that stops walkers from entering the dairy really the smartest idea? No. The answer is no.
Dad! Dad! Come on! Let's eat!
Bruh.
The Hick family in the countryside that turns out to be cannibals cliche.
I mean, I don't know anything about films or movies or TV shows or games, but I've never heard the whole Hick family becomes cannibals in the hills, wherever the fuck the sin was. I've never heard that before. It could all well be a real thing, a real cliche, sorry. I'm not going to take away sin simply because it could possibly be true and it could actually be a cliche, but I'm just pointing out that I've never heard of it before.
You talk a big game, but could you do the hard thing if it was gotcha or duck?
It's never gonna come to that.
Bruh. You ain't gonna kill me.
Oh yes I am.
Bruh.
Wait, is that Mark upstairs that's zombified? How'd he get back up there? He fell down the stairs earlier before everyone was about to eat his legs.
I don't think it's so far-fetched that once the brothers knocked out the group and threw them in the meat locker to just put Mark back upstairs.
Kenny manages to survive this wound without any medical care.
I don't think he received no medical care considering the events of the end of the episode where they find the abandoned truck, or the abandoned wagon with all like the food, the water, the medical supplies in there. So it's likely that after they got back to the motor inn that somebody had a look at his wound and then treated it.
Everyone here just stands around and does nothing while Lee fights Andy. Why? 'Cause the game demands it! This mashing section is pointless and goes on way too long. Just let go after a little while and you'll be saved.
There's gonna be Fallout.
And Fallout 2, Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 4, and Fallout Forever and Ever till the end of time.
Bruh.
The dead don't kill their own.
It's the living you gotta be afraid of.
Hey, what's with the sound change?
So that is it for season 1, episode 2, or everything wrong with season 1, episode 2. I don't know how long this video will come out to be, but I definitely do plan on making more of these, like, more frequently anyway. But other than that, that is the end of the video, so feel free to check out season 1, episode 1 if you've not already. I will wrap this video up by not doing an outro, because that shit's